shit, I'm a person of color, and I'm unaware of some of the ways that racism and oppression takes place in our country. So, but I also still firmly believe that it's still being a product of your environment. It takes a lot to decondition yourself to admit that some of the ways of your people have been the most deplorable acts known to man. Like, it's a lot of shadow work that would be involved in that, and some people just simply aren't up for it.
Even with that, because I follow a lot of conscious people who are not Black, and they have this high awareness, of all knowing togetherness, but they never speak up in the defense of Black people and things that are wrong against them. You know?
Well, are they conscious then? Are they, or do they just have the brand that, you know, is it something that you're just profiting off of something popular for the moment?
If I was a white person, right, and I wanted to, I guess, put myself in the position of a Black person, or even just empathize with what's going on, we're not asking for a lot. We're really just asking, like, hey, channel this information.
You're not asking for a lot.
Right, but
you're not. It's some very stern people of color out here.
I would say it's not a race situation. If you're a conscious person, this isn't a race, Black or white thing. This is a right versus wrong. And it's pretty clear that people who look like you're doing a lot of wrong things. So if you're truly a conscious person, then you're always on the path of love and light. And the situation needs a lot of love and light.
My life is not a contingency plan. My life is based on what I can do to help the development of all life. It's just, I know that within this specific spectrum of life, people are not really trying to talk about it or trying to rebuild it. They're just trying to be like, well, that's how they are, so it is what it is. You're gonna have to accept the world for what it is, and we can't really do it. But it's like, no, we are part of the soil, just like how we all say, like, this is, whether you're in America, you're like, this is my land. Whether I'm in Africa, I'm like, this is my land. But shit, we're all from the same soil.
We've been talking about it since day one. This is where our people come back into play. We have to focus on our own community, building our own stuff. So when they're talking about this is the end of the world, it's the end of that world. It's the end of that paradigm. Those same traditions, those systems, all of that stuff is collapsing. We see it. Marquise kind of mentioned it earlier, just infrastructure and just basic stuff that you can see failing that they don't know how to properly work. So again, it's not a race thing. That's what's being perpetuated. But again, that's because that's their system.
You're listening to The Parallel Paths, a podcast designed to elevate your mind, body, and spirit so that you can get everything you want out of life. The only question is, are you ready?
Well, welcome to the Parallel Paths podcast. We had a good intro. Wow. Yeah, it's so crazy how every time like we have like our pre-record episodes, like it always ties into the chakra for the day. Yeah. So definitely we'll have to come through that and see what we might be able to insert in this episode. But welcome back to the Parallel Paths podcast. Today we are discussing the crown chakra. We finally made it to chakra number 7. It's been 7 weeks and we're here. So our rainbow journey has taken us from the element of sound into the element of thought, which is pure consciousness. Here is where we learn to connect with the divine, to connect with something bigger than ourselves, outside of ourselves. But learning how to also remain individuals while being a part of something greater than ourselves. And we tend to think, especially if you study in the Eastern religions or philosophies, that basically you just need to give up all of your desires and search this higher power. But I think what we've talked about a little bit already is that it's really more about integration. So that Kundalini rising going up to the crown chakra is where we're going to get meaning from everything that we learn from the lower chakras. It's like the operating system to our computers, our bodies. And once we get that meaning and we figure out what it is, we can send it right back down to the lower chakras so that they elevate and they grow and they expand and evolve. And it's this ever folding, ever growing story, because where you have met the crown chakra, now the next phase is to start all over, and then the crown chakra becomes the new root chakra for the next journey. Or if you're into tarot, that's basically the fool's journey, from the fool all the way ending with the world. And so we start out very foolish as far as being very innocent and naive to things in our root chakra with the Fool card, and then we journey through the chakras, and then towards the end we have the World card, where now we have all this knowledge, all this wisdom, all these experiences that we've learned from, and essentially life doesn't end there. Energy never dies, so then it just turns into a new journey for the new thing. The Sanskrit term for this chakra is Sahasrara, I think. Y'all know I can't never say them right, but it's it's S-A-H-A-R-A. Is it S-A-H? S-A-H-A-S-R-A-R-A. Woo!
Hey, that's
what it means. And basically it means 1,000-petaled lotus. So my understanding is that basically there's like 20 layers and there's 50 petals on each layer. And the meaning behind that is just to break through illusion, to be able to see that we're all one. We're separate, but we're together at the same time.
I was gonna say, I did see a mantra for this one is silence. I thought that was ironic. And if you're familiar with I guess this could be a mantra as well, or quote, but be still and know I am God. Like same type of deal with the silence. You also have Om. So we talked about Om in the heart chakra in the beginning. Same type of deal.
That's how you know source is aligned with love. You know, if it's the same heart to the crown. And it really is like an immersion into this. Because there's been times when, whether it was in a breathwork workshop or in meditation, where I just feel it just dissolves. Like the thing that made me this physical entity dissolves, and really just open up to this feeling of like all is good, like all is connected, and just like the amazing feeling. So it's just like, yeah.
Yes. But the divinity that we receive, I think, from our crown chakras, which are, by the way, about 4 finger widths above the top of your head. I think the divinity that we receive that gives us that oneness also charges the light that's within us. So it's like, if we're realizing that we're a part of the divine, and we know that the divine is light, which is the fastest thing. So then when you have light, which we are in essence made up of, and then you add thought, which is the consciousness, so this is our 6th and our 7th chakra, then we realize that we are gods and goddesses, that we are expressions of that divine essence that created us all. And I think that the crown chakra is the epitome of namaste, which is a very popular word in the spirituality community, which means the divine light in me sees the divine light in you. And so we would be more careful with how we treat each other and how we speak to each other, because we realize essentially that if we're all connected and we're all a part of divinity, then whatever I'm saying to you, I'm essentially saying to myself, even though your clothing, the skin may look different on the outside, that essence, that same thing that animates your body and mind, which we consider the breath, right? So if we go, born up or raised up in Christianity, we learn about in the scripture, it talks about the breath of life and how God breathed breath into Adam's body and it made him a living soul, right? So the breath being the consciousness, because when a person dies, or essentially they appear to die, the consciousness leaves the body, but the body is still there, you know, and that's when we realize it's just a vehicle that we inhabit. So when we're literally breathing breath into this body, that breath has no color, that consciousness, it has no color at all. So we realize that the same breath that enters my body to animate me is the same breath that has entered your body to animate you. And that goes back to astrology too, which is why, you know, your ascendant, which is the exact time that you were born, it's the time that you caught your first breath. It was the time that the breath of life entered into your body, was because before that, you weren't really breathing. You're in a sac, you know, with fluids. But once that sac has broken and you are entering into the world through your mother, that animation, that breath of life hits you, and then you become fully alive. You're fully animated at that point. We all have that same thing, essentially. So we should remember that, yes, we are individuals. We do have our different cultures and the things that make us unique, because we know who we are by knowing what we are not. So there is that part. But then we also have the all. And so I think that, you know, that's something to consider when you're thinking about how you treat somebody else, the things that you speak to them, how are you influencing the world? Because think about it, if you were speaking to God, like if you were speaking to your higher power or whatever you worship or pray to, would you, you know, how would you speak to it? And however you would speak to it is basically how you should treat your neighbors and other people, regardless of their culture or where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
Like that.
And that includes calling people out on their wrongs, and, you know, showing them, exhibiting self-love by protecting what you know is right, what everyone knows is right and what's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love and light, you know. Well, it's a form of love, but just sometimes you got to meet certain energies with certain energy.
I was gonna say love can be tough. Nobody said it was all sunshine and roses. So if it take a stern talking to, sometimes that's out of love. So I think that you all mentioned it earlier, but this is the time of truth. So sometimes the truth can be a little bit harsh. I think having grace, we talk about that too, but like this is definitely one of those periods where, again, as you challenge your own thoughts and knowing, is having grace with yourself, giving yourself the space to grow and actually heal, and others, just understanding that they're going through their own set of issues. You never know what somebody else is going through, so moving with grace.
You don't. Everybody's going through their own individual walks, and so I think it's when you do come from a point of love. With my kids, to be honest, I think whether you say something very sweetly or very sternly, I don't think it matters. I think the person has to be in a place to receive it. I've yelled at my kids and it's done no better than when I've said it, you know, holding their hands and being kind about it. I think you just give people the same respect that you would want yourself. And you know, you don't have to come from a place, your delivery doesn't have to come from a place of you wanting them to get it, your ego wanting them to get it. They have to be ready to get it, and it has to be at the time that's best for them, so it'll actually stick. Because we can yell, we can fuss, we can cuss and do whatever. That's not going to help the message get across. But sometimes it's just it's the delivery, and other times it's the words that's being used, which is a benefit to why we have like 4 people on the podcast right now, because we all interpret things differently. And so we're going to translate it differently. And you may get it, you know, Marquise might say it one way, you might get it. Makita may put it another way, and then it might click then. So I think that we're just out here to be sharing our knowledge and to share what we know and not be so attached to the outcomes. And from what I've been studying about the crown chakra, attachment is the demon of the crown chakra. And we can get a little bit too fixated or obsessed with something, or we just get too attached to the outcome of the thing. And the antidote to that is surrender. You just put out whatever you need to put out there, and then you let it go. and what's done will be done.
I did see, it says if you feel unbalanced, it could be from mental disorders, fear, materialism,
depression,
memory and learning problems, apathy, broken, or spiritual crisis. So that's definitely a few things to consider. And as far as attachment, I think in the Western world, let's say, the programming has been to be materialistic and to put weight on stuff that really does not matter or hold true bearing or weight with your spiritual development. And so being addicted to the bags and the heels and how much this person making and what kind of car this person drive or what house they live in, like all of that stuff leads to imbalance. So I think, again, Jerica kind of mentioned it earlier, Makita too, but like once you start to go within, I think Marquise mentioned it too, but like just spreading your energy out. And once you come within self, is experiencing that liberation and that peace. And once you start to experience your own peace, that's all you want for yourself and others. It's not about some of this other stuff. So for me and my ability to detach, that's been for me finding my own peace within, because I understand it's a mental game right now. It's what's going on up here was dictating everything else. So if you can find peace within, that's first and foremost where you want to start.
And I always think of when I'm connected to spirit, it's this level of detachment from the world. So recognizing that you are a spirit and you are living in this human world. So that's not even, these things aren't even happening to you. They're happening to an expression of you in this human form. So there is still eternal life after your physical vessel is gone. So don't be so attached to what's happening in this world. So don't let, people have, anxiety about something that keeps them stuck in one place in their life, or fear about something keeps them stuck in one place in their life. And it's like, you don't realize like it's happening. It's like playing it's like playing a video game, and that video game seeming so real to you that you don't realize that just because somebody blew off your leg in the video game doesn't mean that you don't have a leg in real life. So it's like we get so attached to this physical material world, but you're much more in this physical body. So knowing that your goal is to be the purest expression of your light that you are, and whatever that looks like, but don't worry about what the outcomes or consequences are going to be in order for you to express who you truly are, your true light. And I feel like that has given me a level of detachment from the world to where I could detach myself from the opinions of other people or perspectives of other people that made so much logical sense to them. But in my mind, I was like, you know what? It doesn't make sense. Doesn't sit with my spirit. But I was so detached from that and willing to just curiously follow my spirit that it led me to a much bigger world than I could ever live had I been so tied to the material world and what was happening between me and other humans or me and the environment.
I think that's a big key, because that's a part of being open-minded. So that being one of the things as far as not being just attached to one specific ideology or whatever the case may be, but being willing to explore those different areas is huge.
And it takes growth for that. It definitely, obviously, curiosity might be the actual, starter for that, just to kind of just see like, well, what's out there. But when it comes down to just like, all right, well, let me just explore it. I mean, I got Google, I got a Wi-Fi signal. So let me kind of just see, what's out there. I know for myself.
But you don't want to use Google, use something different. Use DuckDuckGo.
Something like that. But for me, when I got into a level of just curiosity, I just started doing little things. Like I would go on and you all remember when like these cars used to have like the actual map of like your state or whatever it is. I remember I used to open up those maps and I would just look at the map and study the map and just be
Bro,
like,
that's me.
Yeah.
Love maps.
You know what I mean? Just like I just study the map. And then for me, it just something in my head used to think that the world only existed from the supermarket to my mother's house, because that's literally the only, radius that I had, for like the first 7 years of my life. And then overall, over time, I start to see this expansive world and started to realize, like, man, there's like lakes over here, there's forest over here, there's all these different things, snow caps. And I'm just like, man, like, I need to go there. I need to go there. And then that evolved into like going on like the internet for like the actual map of the globe, or like international travel, and just seeing how other people's perspectives are, from the outside coming in. It made me very curious about, well, what is there more that I don't know? And sometimes it's kind of like what Jerica said, like sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So if it wasn't for me as a child having that curiosity, opening up that map at 7, just to kind of see that there is an expansive environment outside of my own, I would have never had that initial thought of growth. I saw on, I think it was like a Awaken. He had like a video, but there was like a short clip where he was talking about that he had a pet snake and he kept it in this fish tank. And his mother said, like, eventually you need to get that snake a bigger fish tank because it needs to grow. Because snakes only grow as big as their environment that they're kept in. And so he said when he got the bigger fish tank or the bigger cage, the snake started to grow within that tank. And I feel like that's what, for us as beings, it's imperative for us to kind of challenge ourselves, whether it's our actual physical environment where we're just like, all right, let me just walk outside or go to the park. Or if it's just within a psychological stance where it's just like, let me kind of see what else is out there as far as the things that I need to learn, even just learning a different language, or just trying to watch videos on like how other cultures do certain things to kind of get their day ready. So it's definitely been eye-opening for me in those aspects.
This is in relation to meditation, and and I feel like you're probably about to ask about ways to strengthen it or balance it out. But this is why I'm so big on teaching meditation, and just taking that time to just be still and like open yourself up to that feeling of immersion. Because what happens when you do that is you begin to download, you begin to open yourself up to this infinite, eternal, universal sphere in which you have access to what is happening in that sphere. And I think about, we talked about the sacral chakra being representing creativity. And I think it's important for us to realize that that's the expression of creativity. But the crown chakra is what is allowing you to become in touch with that infiniteness where that creativity resides. So the more, that's why I tell like even a lot of people who do music, like meditate. The more you meditate, you just begin to practice that act of opening up. So you're in that state of flow when you're just receiving those downloads.
It's a good point. I mean, look at Parallel Paths podcast, straight downloads. 3 layers of wellness is download. So you're actually seeing physical fruits on our side of it by what we got going.
I'm wondering if there are certain chakras that when you have a moment of really like turning on that chakra, it's really clear. It's like those, I can't go back. Like I'm too far.
Once you know, you know.
Yeah. And I think
there is no unknowing.
Yeah. And I think the solar plexus, right? Once you have that sense of who I am and that you have something unique to contribute, the third eye, once you see what's really up, and then that crown, once you realize like I am spirit, like I can do whatever in this world. I feel like those 3 in particular are ones where it's like once you get there, it's like, oh, I gotta go for it. There's gotta be more to this.
And that sparks back what I was thinking. So we talk about the third eye or using our physical eyes, our first eye and our second and third for real. But like, let's say if something happens, like the shooting that y'all mentioned earlier, repurpose that in your mind. We talk about everything being a mental thing and you being the change that you want to see in the world. So instead of harping on the situation, knowing that there's nothing that you can, I guess, physically do about it in that point in time, before you go to bed and you're recapping the events of the day, re-image that particular event. So instead of it being a mass shooting, let's say you saw a headline and it was a mass celebration. and it was your favorite artist and everybody coming together, and it was a big celebration. Us on the collective level starting to see the things that we want to see is going to be huge. So again, we talk about this being a mental war that's going on. It's not a real war that somebody gonna come and blow you up type deal. This shit is all mental. So see the things that you want to see. And I think a lot of the times too, we're creating a reality based on past thoughts. So like you might see some shit about the shooting or whatever, and then we're still perpetuating that same topic the next day. Drop that, focus on the present and what you want to see. Live in the end of what you want, whatever that reality to be, and we will start to move toward that. But we got to get out of the fear mongering and staying in that type of situation. These people are energy vampires at the top. And again, to me, it's not a race thing. It's an energetic thing. That's where it's more so like, once your crown is open, your heart's open and all this stuff, the people that you're coming across, are they vibing with you or are they not type of deal? It's not just because of the skin suit like we talked. So, yeah.
I like that.
And
I think your environment is a direct reflection of your state of consciousness too. So it's like if you look around and you see like, how do you upkeep your living space, or how neat are you? Are you working a job that you like? Are you able to make money? I think all of that is a direct reflection of what your consciousness is. So you go back to, like Makita said about meditating. I was looking up the etymology for meditate, and the Pi root med means to take appropriate measures. And so when we meditate, it says to ponder and to think abstractly. Well, the crown chakra is thought. And that consciousness from which we get things from is abstract. It's abstract. So that's why by the time we're processing it to the third eye chakra, where we're really dissecting the images, that's where we're able to turn it into, categorize it, or put it into an archetype to really process it of what it means to us. So when we do get in a state of meditation, we're literally in a state of contemplating the abstract. So we could say that when we meditate, it's us having conversation with that higher consciousness, that higher power. So you're contemplating the abstract. You're contemplating, so take abstract, switch it for God or higher power, higher self. Contemplating, thinking of, thinking with, or divining with that higher power when you meditate. And then you're going to process what you got in your third eye. So that's having a strong third eye. So you're not in delusion. You know how to take whatever it was that you received, and you can dissect it, process it, and then you can express what you learn and verbalize what you learn, become creative with it. Then you can embody it in your heart chakra and really own it. And then you're living it in your sacral chakra. You feel it. It's a part of the fabric of your being. And then by the time you get to your root chakra, you can manifest it. So you can take whatever started out as an idea, as a thought, and it can go all the way through the process to the point to where you can manifest it. And so now the reflection of what's in your consciousness and your environment, so crown and root, you can see the reflection there because it's gone through the process. Exactly. Yeah.
Fire. Jerry coming with that heat right now.
It just hit me, you know what I'm saying? Had to process real quick.
That's a download. That's
right.
That fire.
And the more you can find yourself in the present moment and not thinking thoughts, because they say that 90% of the thoughts you're thinking are the thoughts that you're thinking are thoughts that you thought before. That's
what I was saying with the past piece, living in the past.
Yeah. And if you're thinking thoughts of the past from your subconscious, then you're still creating that past in your present moment. But when you can bring, when you're not thinking, you can bring your awareness to the present moment and just exist in the present moment without trying to create another dual reality in your head by thinking, then you open yourself up to receiving downloads, because one, you're in touch with reality. right? So you're going to be more intelligent in the way you think because you're actually seeing and perceiving what's really happening versus seeing and perceiving a reality in your head and then bringing that reality to responding to that reality in this world, right? So you're going to be more aware, more intelligent. And then of course, you're open, you're connected to the divine, the creator. So things are going to flow to you that you then, like Jerica said, you eventually get to manifest, just like everything around us right now.
And ultimately, where our focus goes, energy flows. So you do have to be careful of what you decide to focus on. And I think that goes back to the bigger issue that Blair mentioned about not only there's certain things you don't even know unless you turn on the TV or unless you turn on social media, because if your energy isn't there, if your focus just isn't there, then it's just not a part of your world. But you can have that balance between your crown and your heart chakra, to say that it doesn't mean when it does come across your path that you can't show that compassion and help wherever you feel that there needs to be help. But I don't know about y'all, I definitely don't feel pulled to get overly involved in certain social movements. And I think that because at this point, I feel like a lot of it is orchestrated as a distraction and to keep us in this loop of fear and anger and upset and, oh, it's just going to be this way. And we've seen that go on for so long. And so now just putting my focus on me and my local community, if anything, I feel like you just kind of start there, and then that good energy will begin to spread out.
Right. Because you'll attract your tribe. So as long as your truth be true, like Blair's shirt says, that you're best, you are loved. Right.
Yeah.
So as long as you
rest in peace, Leo.
You'll attract that, and you'll attract people around you, who are along that same path.
Oh, let's talk about since we talked about meditating and thoughts. I know a lot of times people will say one of the biggest issues with meditating is their thoughts just running rampant. So let's talk about some solutions to that, or some things that you can do to kind of work around that or get through that hurdle. For me, focus on the sounds in your environment, whether it be stuff far away, within the room, might be the fan spinning or the air condition blowing or the refrigerator running, whatever. But like continue to focus on other senses, whether it be, like I said, sound, or even your body parts, like rotate your consciousness throughout your body. But it's definitely important to try and get to a quiet headspace. And then even from like a visual perspective, if you imagine the thoughts like on a cloud and it just drifting off your screen, it's another way to kind of quiet it. If y'all got any more, definitely add.
Yeah, I have one where there's basically an analogy where you're pretty much sitting on the side of the highway and your only job is to basically watch the traffic, and you're just watching all of these cars going by down the highway. But sometimes our mind, especially what we call the monkey mind, they like to jump in the middle of traffic, trying to stop the cars, basically, because the cars symbolize your thoughts. So within that aspect, you try to tell the monkey mind to stop the thoughts from coming by. So you just jump into the highway trying to stop these cars. Well, obviously that's going to cause a complete disaster, especially within your psyche. So if you think about it as in, the only imperative thing you have to do is just sit there at the side of the road and just watch your thoughts. Just let them go by, run through them. They do whatever they need to do, jumble up in here just like a cloud, and then they'll drift off. So that way you can at least control yourself from not controlling, basically. Another thing I would say is that the 10 breath. So for me, I think of it as it's also a really good mental practice. And the only thing you have to do is when you're breathing in, every time that you breathe out, only thing that you're saying to yourself is just one number. And then bring it in, breathing out 2, in, out 3. By the time you get to about 7 or 8, you should either A, lost count, or B, you completely forgot where you left, you completely forgot like your, what the task was. So now you're pretty much more in a calm state because you pretty much just had enough time for your body to recognize it's trying to bring yourself into that meditative state. I know for me, I usually do a 33 breath, and that's when I'm really trying to get deep into like my Kundalini flow. I'll just try to take in my deep breath, hold it for 4, or take in for 4, hold for 4, and then breathe out for 8, and then that's 1. And I got to do that for 33 times. But obviously it took practice for me to get there. So I would just say one of those 2 aspects will help.
I was definitely going to say conscious breathing. That was when I forgot. But even just using the mantra, this is my in breath, this is my out breath. Just repeating that to yourself. That's another way.
Yeah. And they have the alternate nostril breathing, which is also kind of like a conscious breathing technique.
That one is great.
For sure.
But
I like the alternate.
Yeah. I'll say for a lot of people, like you are doing a good job at meditating. If you are meditating, you're just being there, you have a thought, you're thinking the thought, you're distracted, and then you recognize that and come back. So if you're doing that back and forth process, that is okay. And you're strengthening that focused muscle, right? Eventually you'll get to a space to where you are able to just observe everything and not have to interact with it. But even if you're in meditation and you find yourself thinking, you're not even aware you're thinking for like 30 seconds, like, oh, dang, I'm supposed to be meditating. And you come back and you have to keep repeating that process, you're still building the strength and you're still building the muscle. If you do have a busy mind, a guided meditation is a great way, right? Because just like Blair said, when you're thinking about the senses all around you, that person instructing you, they're kind of giving you something soft to focus on, to where they're directing you what to do and they're guiding you into a calmer state, versus you trying to guide yourself into a calmer state without any type of outside stimulus. So guided meditations, alternate nostril breathing, but also just realizing that process of going from conscious to unconscious is building that meditation muscle that you'll get better at over time. Yeah.
I think for me, I am definitely not the best sit down meditating type of person. To be quite honest, I don't do it at all. I never sit down and like be in a state of just silence and thinking. And I'm just being real honest. I think I take a little bit of that back. I probably, if I do, it might be after I've done yoga, like as my cool down, especially if I was sweating a little bit or something, then I might either lay on the mat, or I may decide to sit for a few minutes to calm my breathing down, to calm down for a minute. But again, like going back into etymology of the word. So when we're looking at meditation, it also means contemplation, devout preoccupation, private devotions, prayer, thought, reflection, and study. So it's something that is clearly mentally stimulating. So I would also say if you're like me and you just don't get any kind of anything from just sitting still, I would say the most that I do for meditating is study. It's the mental stimulation, because when you study and you're researching, you're opening up your mind to something that you don't know. It's the willingness to expand your beliefs. It's to express something that wasn't there before. So if you're artistic, that is a devout preoccupation. You are devoting time to expressing yourself, to make something out of nothing, that blank canvas that was there, and you're willing to make it something. Or maybe you crochet. Again, you started with just tools and you turning it into something. Or maybe you like to go for a run or a walk. It's devoting that time and energy and focus on that one thing, and then you can get downloads in that way too. So those are for the people that's like me that just can't do it. And but we can find other ways to meditate.
You could hit it right on the nose, because a lot of people don't necessarily subscribe to the way that we meditate. I know that for us, I know it probably took a while for us to kind of get it.
Yoga too is a great meditation.
Yeah,
I was gonna say yoga, qigong. Yeah, riding a bike.
That's what I was saying. Because
playing basketball, like it's so many things that's meditative.
Yeah, because I work out like doing calisthenics and doing all that other stuff. That's a form of meditation. I can cook or
Hell
something.
yeah. If I'm lifting, that's definitely meditative.
You know, yeah, like even when it comes down to just like research, I'm the research person. So when I'm learning, how long were we looking at I was looking at calendars for. I mean, I was going in. So it was like
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
The whole Gregorian, Hijri, Islam calendars, trying to go through the whole thing. But ultimately, well, all it is just having that moment of that moment of peace. That's really what it is when you have that mental peace. And when you're doing this, you're making sure that within that time of passion, that time of peace, that time of where you feeling like everything is clicking, you just want to make sure that that is something that you can actively go to whenever you can. So wherever that place is, and you can actively go to that, then you have meditated. It's just that we have different modalities of how we do it.
And
we talk.
Go ahead, Blair.
I was just gonna say we talked about the connection to the heart, but like do the things that you love. When you start to do those things more, you definitely just naturally become in a meditative state. That's all I was gonna say.
And I think for some people, going to that space is scary because when you get still and you cut off all the distractions of social media, of other people, of everything else in this world, and you get still, the pains, the traumas, all the stuff of the past will come up, right? Because that's why you've been so immersed in these distractions, is to distract you from your unhappiness that your soul is experiencing. So initially, yes, things can come up, but you have to deal with that in order to get to the beauty of things, and to have that be the predominant thing that you're in. It takes going through and like recognize, and this is why it's important to recognize you are this spirit. You came here to learn. You came here to expand and evolve. It doesn't matter what it looks like. So you can let go of the resentment. You can let go of the guilt and the shame and acknowledge it, process it, and release, let it go. So that way you can make it through that mush and get to the love and light. And I think that's what the whole lotus, the story behind the lotus flower is. You're going to go through that mud, and you have to stop giving into the distracting comforts of this world that are saying, don't look over there, don't look in the mud, don't look over here, look over here, look over here. But if you stay over there and never go through the mud, you might have this illusion of happiness, but your spirit, your soul is not full.
Yeah.
Right. Start with the therapy.
Pay attention to those roots. The roots are what anchor you. It's what anchors the spirit into the body. So you definitely got to look in the mud. You got to understand where your roots are coming from, so you know where you're going. And you can only grow as far as you're firmly planted. So again, we talk about the polarity of things. You want to make sure that your needs are taken care of, so that you have enough energy available to dedicate to meditation. So making sure that your bills are paid, make sure that you have that job, that whatever that security it is that you need, so that you can free up time to do the things that you love to do. Because it can be very hard to spend any time in the crown chakra when your lower chakras have not been met.
And sometimes you got to leave that environment. If it's not going to give you that space that you need, you might have to leave.
That goes with people too. Like, there's people who be gotten like friends and family, like nobody is safe. You know what I mean? Just
okay.
Anyways, but
I was cutting them off. I'm gonna shoot them.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, like some people, some people really just do need to take that initiative and the extra responsibility for what they truly want. I feel like for a lot of people that's in our circle, we say we want certain things, but we're not taking the precautionary steps to make sure that, we're providing that for ourselves. So now that we are, I guess, enlightened or conscious now on what we really want, we have to do these things. And just because it's going to be scary, because you don't know what it's going to be like without that job or without that person or without that environment, like you have to understand, just like the analogy that I put in, you're that snake in that small, cage, basically. So you have to know that within the advancement or the within the evolvement of your environment, that's actually going to help you out, regardless of whatever else is going on around you. Because ultimately, whatever's going to help you is going to help everyone else. And then the people who are pretty much not really there for you, they're going to prune out anyways. So
they're going to fall off.
This makes me think about the whole concept of God in Christianity, with it being taught as an external thing, but you're living in a world where it's like, where is God? Like, would God really allow these things to happen? It's like you're never realizing that you are that creator. So you're never talking to yourself, never tapping into your own power, because you're waiting for something external to do it, when you get to realize that you are an expression of that, you know?
Exactly.
It all starts with an evil intent first. So I think that's what people don't really understand, is that, you know, I don't want to talk about these shootings or anything like that, but everyone now has, what do they call it, a memento or a memoir or something like that. But everyone basically has like a tracking of what they wrote or what they said before they acted in this thing. So it seems like now the prerequisite of some type of mass shooting or mass killing is having this reflective letter or this reflective tweet on the reasons why. Manifestos and stuff like that. So it's the intent that people have to understand. Everything, like what Blair said, everything is a mental game. Everything is mental. So before it even gets to acting on this person's probably been, you know, having this replay over and over and over and over again, to the point where it's like now it became a reality. If we flip that on its head and we made a positive situation where it was like, okay, well, maybe it's not the mass shooting, kind of like what Blair said, it was like a mass celebration. We have to understand that we have those same elements in play where we can manifest and create entire environments, entire communities, entire cultures, entire ways to just advance ourselves and get back to the way that we were in a positive light.
And I feel like the biggest time we saw that happen was when the lockdown happened, and some people's lives went to shit, and some people had a catalyst of growth in that period where they were just like, things are good, like this is the best year of my life. But some people it was the worst, and it was because what were you focused on during that period?
That's all it is. So for us, like even when we're talking about Christianity, or you know, God or whatever it is, it's ultimately what you said. It's really just channeling in that energy, because you can even just say you're an avatar for the higher power. And within that aspect, and knowing that you stand on one of the most honorable positions in the universe, like you have a say in what you want this world to be. And you don't have to do anything on a physical plane. Just think it. Just think it and use the tools that you have, your senses that you have, to make that change happen. And I feel like people are not even doing that. So that's why
they don't know. They don't know.
Like, what do you?
They don't know until we telling them. Like that's part of the issue. We weren't taught this type of stuff. Like meditation should be a foundation taught as soon as you get in school.
Right.
Your nutrition should be something that you're taught as soon as you get in school. Like you should know how your meat suit or your vehicle is working. They don't teach you none of that. So
3 hearts.
Again, it goes
your stomach, your heart, and your mind.
Yeah. So again,
it goes back to understanding the why behind the things we do, because the more that I've studied the chakras and trying to figure out how to integrate the attention to them into everyday life, I realized that we're already doing a lot of it. It's just that when you're doing things consciously, you can see where you're checking off those boxes. So it's like, for example, if I think a good idea would be like journaling, do like chakra journaling, because I think you got the microcosm of the macrocosm. And so you have the chakra journey we've talked about on the macro level, but then you have it where you can experience it in everyday life versus experiencing certain ones at certain ages. So every day, at the end of the day, you can say, okay, where did I take care of my root chakra needs today? Where did I take care of my solar plexus chakra needs today? Did I have time to tap into my third eye stuff? And those are ways that you can try to make sure that you keep balance amongst those main 7 chakras. So if essentially, like Blair mentioned, if meditation is taught in school, okay, so they may not be crossing their legs to do it. But one thing that we did have was a moment of silence where you would either have reading time or maybe you're writing. You're doing that devotion, that stimulation where you are creating, you're dedicating time to being creative. And that's a part of our divinity, is creation. That was how we even got here in the first place. So making sure that we keep the arts in school and keeping that a part of your daily lives. And in some parts of our childhood, you see that. And then by the time we're graduating, people aren't drawing anymore. You're not forced to make time for that artistic expression. And so a lot of us, unless you do it for an occupation or if you're dedicated to a hobby, some people don't have any kind of artistic expression in their daily life. Or where do you do something for self? What's something that's going to feed your solar plexus for the day, where you're worrying about you, where you're doing, and I think one way to look at that is affirmations. Affirmations is a great way to tend to your solar plexus for the day, because you're building up your ego, you're building up your identity, understanding things about you. If you're out and you're doing something to where you're understanding, oh, what do I like? What do I not like? Then you've checked off the box for your solar plexus for the day. If maybe you needed to process some feelings, or you're trying to understand your wants and desires and what that is, then you know you're feeding into your sacral chakra for the day. If you're unemployed and you went on a job interview or you're looking for a job, then you know you're contributing to your root chakra, your stability. If you focused on eating healthy and eating right, then you can check off your root chakra. If you had that very hard conversation that it took you so long to muster up the courage to do, you've checked off your throat chakra for the day. Or if you've done some sort of expression of some sort, then you've checked off your throat chakra for the day. And if you have shown compassion and love to somebody, if you've hugged somebody today, or if you held space for them to cry, or if you thought about others, where did you extend yourself beyond you to other people, then you've checked off your heart chakra for today. So it's definitely not like unattainable and so mystical and so guru to where you have to get to this such a elevated, graduated state of being where you can actually, because again, it's as above, so below. So you're, as much as we want to evolve and we want to transcend into our crown chakra, once we're there, we have to be able to take that and to bring it back down, to bring the divinity into the body. And I think that those are ways that we can look at our lives and see where we are doing the work, and then where you need to, I wouldn't necessarily say raise your vibration, but because we're always vibrating, everything vibrates all the time. Meaning, which is another way to say you're right where you need to be, but we can say that you can raise your frequency. So you may need to more frequently visit one or another chakra. So maybe you need to more frequently spend time in your crown chakra. So you need to raise the frequency there, be there more frequently, or you may need to do that in the root chakra or what have you. So when we can see like some of the terms and things that we use in the spiritual community, it's very much something that's divine that we can bring down and make it tangible and practical in our everyday lives. It's not far-fetched or unattainable, or I don't want anybody to feel overwhelmed by trying to balance 7 different chakras. You're probably already touching a good 3 or 4 of them, if not more, on a daily basis. So just kind of comb through it, maybe journal, and you'll see where you're actually working on each one. It's just that it's much more powerful when you're doing it intentionally and consciously versus unconsciously. You can actually see your growth more.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea. Okay.
I got crystal recommendations too, if we're there. Are we there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have a comeback from last week, and that is indigo kyanite. And this is good. It's going to stimulate your spiritual awakening. This is going to be good to see truth and inner vision. It's going to help you to reach that state of enlightenment and to connect you with your dreams, to connect you with the all that is. So this is one that we had last week with the sixth chakra. Also celestite. This is a new one. So celestite helps to enhance your awareness of that pure consciousness, and it helps to clear attachments. So if you have any addictions or attachments that's holding you back from being able to expand and accept the messages from the divine, this is celestite, and it's going to help with that. This is a pretty big piece, but that's what it looks like. And then
what your crystal plug is.
Bruh.
Oh yeah, I have to I put
collection crazy.
This is a comeback from last week too. This is dumortierite, and this is going to help to enhance your emotional intelligence, and it's going to help to develop prophetic vision. So again, this is to help you to work in conjunction with the 6th and 7th chakra, so that with whatever you're downloading, you can interpret, okay, in a safe way. All right, so that you're not having an illusion or delusions. And then the last two are actually together, but they work great separately too. And so I don't have a piece where they're fused together, but if I did, it's called ametrine. And ametrine is amethyst, purple amethyst mixed with green amethyst, or I think the term they use for green amethyst is prasiolite. But basically these two together helps to connect spiritual love and human love, because even though we are spirit beings, we are having a very human experience. And so the purple amethyst is going to help with purifying yourself and releasing yourself from addictions as well. Purification was part of the throat chakra, but we want our minds to be clear and our minds to be pure and rid of anything that could limit our growth. And then the green amethyst helps to connect with your higher self, and it's good with understanding how to express your spiritual ideas. I think these two together really helps very much with the whole namaste aspect of the divine light in me can see the divine light in you. So this is a good crown and heart chakra connection. So if you can purchase it together, it's called amagreen, but if not, then purple amethyst with prasiolite. Those are the crystal recommendations. Oh, and I get my crystals from the Bell Point gym shows that come here in Atlanta, and it's a wholesale like gym show. And I mean, it's awesome. They're on social media. So if you're on Instagram, you can see where they post pictures of their different vendors, and they have tons of vendors. If you're in Atlanta, they vacillate between the Gwinnett County Fairgrounds and the Cobb Galleria Center. I think it's the Cobb County Galleria Center, but whew, it's good. You're going to find some really good deals. I think this size celestite, I may have paid like $30 for, which is pretty good. Amethyst being so popular, I think I only paid maybe $10 for this size. And it's pretty big. So, and you can buy stuff in bulk. So if you're going on retreats or if you want to resell your crystals, you're able to buy in bulk as well for a pretty cheap price. So that's Bell, BELL point POINT gym shows.
We're gonna also plug 3layersofwellness.com. Jerica gonna have some crystal packs on there too. So check us out.
The meditation e-course that we have on there. And then I also recently started have a virtual meditation group meeting every Monday. It's a weekly subscription. We'll be sure to link all of the information in the description.
Got some
a lot more coming with 3 layers, so stay tuned for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Herbs and food for the people.
Recommendations. Some purple cabbage.
Coconut.
Eggplant.
White. Anything white, you got your coconut, got your gingers. Oh, mushrooms.
Trips.
You know?
Well, medicinal ones too, not just psychedelic.
Right.
So, yeah. I'm going crazy now.
Yeah. Go to a breathwork workshop. That'll help you tap in to that what is it called? Whatever chemical it is that allows you to have those kind of oneness, transcendental DMT, yeah. You'll be able to tap into the DMT that's produced within your body. So breathwork.
I don't know about y'all, but like I don't even have to. I've noticed lately, like when I put on certain music and I vibe to certain music, and that means like with my body, like I'll be swaying or dancing, like maybe like tantric or sacred dance. Y'all, the bottom of my eyes get puffy. I be high as a kite and haven't smoked anything. Okay, like
I got certain bands.
do y'all notice that you get in a certain state and you can activate the endorphins or something? It's crazy.
Marvin Gaye, Trouble Man. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
You know what I mean? You become. It's a wrap. And
it's a wrap.
What is it? Earth, Wind, and Fire, and
well, it's the music related.
Oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say Journey to Atlantis by Isley Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Man, I mean, I'm saying all the good music. Don't expect me to say like Young Thug and shit. So you know what I mean?
That's a different generation. But thank you for listening today. We gave y'all a lot. We went all the way through the chakras from the root to the crown. And it was a journey. So we appreciate those who saw it all the way through from the first episode. You know, we're gonna take a little break and then we'll be back with the next season of the Parallel Paths podcast since we're wrapping up this season. Anything else y'all want to say to the people?
Make it practical, guys. Don't overcomplicate the chakras. They're very approachable. They can be very applicable. You can integrate them into your everyday life. So don't overdo it. And to research everything, figure out what works for you. We're just giving you ideas that work for us. So pay attention to your body, notice the synchronicities and things that come through. Journal. If you need tools to help you tap in, do it. Use runes or a tarot or oracle, or throw stones if you need to. Go, whatever you need to help you to tap in. Do that. Get you an accountability partner or somebody that can help keep you on that frequency, because that's going to help you to stay the course on the days where you're not feeling so strong, because it's hard. Blair ended up calling me the other day because I was having a moment where it's just like, screw all of this. I'm over it. Like, I'm tired. You get burnt out. So, have you somebody that, is willing to extend their heart chakra love to you, to check on you and to help hold you accountable and remind you that Rome wasn't built in a day. We don't have to do this in a day. It's going to take time. So peace and love to people on their journeys, but also balance and shadow, because it's not all pretty and love and light. But good luck to you guys. And if you have questions, please put them in the comments section below. We'd love to hear from you. So happy journeying.
Peace.
Peace.